Good morning, Alexis. How are you doing?
Morning, Tosi. Thank you for having me here, and good to meet you, and fantastic to be talking about pangolins today.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, it's one subject that is not known even in the animal welfare fraternity, if I can say something like that, Alexis. So, I mean, which which begs me to ask you, why did you choose this field, or did the field choose you rather?
I think you put it. I think you put it well. I think the field maybe did choose me in the end, in that, from what I've understood about pangolins in the course of interacting with them since 2015, I experienced them to be quite a mystical animal. And, this is reflected in so many of the cultures that honor this animal as the wise old man, the medicine man. And, one has to explore those indigenous cultures more to find out actually what they know. And this education, this information, this knowledge shouldn't be lost. So yes, I come from a media background as a journalist and filmmaker. I started working with animals in 2012, and then moved on to working with pangolins exclusively in 2015, when I took a volunteer position in the Central African Republic to rehabilitate a young black-bellied pangolin, which is one of the tree species in the Central African Republic. And the owners of the rehabilitation center were going away. So this was actually my first experience with pangolins. So there are 4 species in Africa and 4 in Asia. The 4 species in Africa, 2 of them are tree pangolins. That's the white-bellied pangolin and black-bellied pangolin. Then you have the giant pangolin. And then in South Africa and moving further north is the Temminck's pangolin.
Yes, yes.
So that was my first introduction to pangolins, and it's what changed the direction of my life. I mean, just the rainforest itself is such a primal entity. And, staying there in a clearing of the rainforest, which is the habitat of these animals.
And how long did you, sorry, Alex, sorry about that for cutting you off. How long did you stay in CAR?
Tosi, I was there for 2 months.
Excuse me, yes.
So I was there for 2 months, and during that time, I looked after this black-bellied pangolin, and then moved on to taking care of a white-bellied pangolin as well. So I became very intimately involved with the species, and there was no turning back. There was no turning back. You find that people that love pangolins are quite besotted with them. You've got probably 3 different types of people. One is they don't know what pangolins are. The other is that they are besotted with pangolins. And the third is that they would do anything to see one. So it's sort of, it causes to rise up in you this sort of almost, primal energy in your relationship to it. I mean, I don't want to talk in too mystical terms, but
yes,
just to say that it's an extraordinary creature that comes in peace, Tosi.
Yes, Alexis. And then I understand exactly what you mean when you say you don't want to be mystical or talk, the mysticism around it. And I've just, of course, preparing for this chat, I also had to do a little bit of some background, and I saw that and this is what maybe you would assist us with. Different cultures, different areas, whether you are in Africa or Asia, are taking this animal, Alexis, differently, you know, depending on where you are. I mean, I just read recently that in not necessarily in a Zulu or Xhosa culture, but it does seem as if you have a scale of a pangolin, or maybe if you see one, you will be lucky, you know, you or your business will grow or something along those lines. Have you come across something like that?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Tosi. Very much so. It has huge significance in many indigenous cultures. In Venda, which is a very rich traditional culture, they believe that if you find a pangolin, it must be taken to the chief, and that it's the bringer of rain, and that a pangolin, if it's killed in the improper way, in other words, if a single drop of blood falls on the ground, then it will result in a drought into the foreseeable future. In almost every tradition, there is an ancient mythology attached to these creatures. You know, right up to Nigeria. And all tribal cultures, you'll find that there's a relationship to this creature, and that relationship is defined in one or another way. Sometimes it's a totem animal. I mean, in Zimbabwe, it's definitely a totem. And in Uganda, you've got the pangolin as a totem as well, where you've got the pangolin caste or the pangolin tribe. And these people all take it very personally, in fact, if you harm this creature. But that, you know, lost my train of thought now. So
you were saying they are a totem in
yes,
other cultures, and of course I'm Xhosa myself, and an elephant is sacred to us because it's our totem, you know. So, and my clan name, yes, my clan name is Glovu. So those are sacred animals to us, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are sacred to everyone, you know. So I get your point clearly.
And I think, you know, Tosi, you know, the indigenous cultures and the indigenous knowledge is as vulnerable as the animals that they are associated with. And in the end, you know, this fight is about restoring, actually, people's lives and animals' lives.
So true.
The two can't work separately, and they are not independent.
Makes perfect sense. Yes.
You know, these are the two prongs of the situation that have to be dealt with together.
And talking of being dealt with, Alexis, what are the main issues at stake? What's happening out there with regards to penguins, and what are the challenges? You know?
Tosi, look, the problem is the extinction of the species. You know, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the extinction of the species, and the challenges are poverty and demand. And demand. You know, the demand for pangolin scales is seated in Chinese traditional medicine. That is the main demand, where you've got a population of 14 billion people, and it can't be sustained. It cannot be sustained. So this is an ancient tradition, Chinese traditional medicine. How do you stop people from believing in their culture? How do you stop people from doing that?
And at the same time, we are facing extinction of the species as well.
Exactly.
So how do you balance the two?
You know, the point is that once the species becomes extinct, then there is no more product associated with it. It can't be consumed any longer. So do we stop it before and say that there are other issues at stake here? The preservation of our natural world? And there are apparently other resources that can be used instead of pangolin scales. So legislation in China is very, very important. But even then, you know, there's the illegal trade that's underground. Legislation is important. Law enforcement is important. Awareness is important. And poverty reduction and alternate job creation.
Yes.
You know, I mean, if in Africa, for example, and there are many, you know, reasons and many different aspects that the trade takes. I mean, you've got the, you know, the mass export of scales to Asia for traditional medicine.
Yeah.
But you've also got the bushmeat trade. You've got, you know, you've got the eating of pangolin meat as a delicacy as well. And then as populations increase, it all becomes unsustainable. So even the bushmeat trade, which may have been sustainable at one point, is not sustainable anymore. And where you have, you know, hunter families that have, you know, hunted for generations to provide for the bushmeat trade and who have no other source of income. So you have to provide alternate revenue sources for them. So it's very, very complex, Toby. It's very, very complex.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, as you're sharing, Alexis, I'm also thinking about the issues of rhino horn trade, for example. So these are cross-cutting issues whereby you have unemployment and of course the people who are making money, at least according to my understanding, is the people who are already rich and who are high up in the society, and sending these foot soldiers who are hungry, giving them whatever it is, 10,000 rands for the rhino horn, whereas they know that they will be making 100,000 US dollars per kilogram, you know, something like that. But yes, it's those are real challenges that we are facing. But have there been any major successes, maybe in the past couple of years or recently, around this issue?
Tozy, yes, there are major successes all the time. And I think that, you know, we can feel some kind of satisfaction at the fact that there is a general awareness that's increasing. And sometimes I almost feel, and again, this is a little bit of a spiritual idea, but I almost feel as though these animals are being sacrificed for the rising of human consciousness. What is this? What is this?
Yeah, that is deep. That is deep. And if you had a magic wand, talking of spirituality now, if you had a magic wand, Alexis, I mean, what would you change? You know, about the present situation. You did of course make mention of legislation, especially in China. So I can count that as one. If maybe there was legislation and then law enforcement. I think you did mention as well, you know, job creation. But really, if you had a magic wand, what one or two or three things would you change about the present situation?
There is legislation in China. but not enough.
Mm.
So pangolins in China have been elevated to higher protection, but they still are being used in patented medicine. So there needs to be an all-out legislation against it. Just to answer that question, you know, if I had a magic wand, I think I have to go back to the idea that, you know, that human beings would value the natural world. I would have to go, because in a sense, that seems to be the crux of it.
It is. It is.
You know, it's a human moral imperative, Tosi. You know, we cannot, you know, death is an absolute. We know that. But we can't interfere with the natural order in the way that we are doing. And we are seeing the effects of that. So it's on a dangerous scale. There's no question about it.
Yes, yes.
So for me, if I had a magic wand, I would say that I would love to see these animals safe and happy, playing in the canopy of rainforests where they should be.
That's a beautiful one. And then Alexis, maybe just to paint not a gloomy picture, but a picture of what is happening on the ground. How much numbers, if you have any stats, are we talking about here? If things are carrying on the way they are today, when will these animals be extinct? This year, 2022, by 2023, we'll talk about them, seeing them in the pictures and videos, but there would be no more if we were to carry on the way we do now. How many are there, and meaning how many maybe are left, estimation, and then what time frame are we talking about when we talk extinction?
Tosi, it's almost impossible to count them. They're not like a rhino. You can't, you know, put a plane in the air and count creatures. So it's almost impossible to count them. But we know by virtue of the trade that they're under massive threat. I mean, when you have, you know, 6-7 tons of pangolin scales being confiscated at a time on any one confiscation, and knowing that these are just the confiscations or this is just the trade that we're aware of, and how much is actually slipping under the radar. We know that these animals are in a massive amount of trouble. They are considered the most traded mammal on the planet. You know, of course, there's a much bigger resource in the forests.
Yes.
Of Central Africa, West Africa, East Africa, in indigenous forests. There's a much bigger resource. And that's the resource that at this point in time is being pillaged. So the Asian, just to give you a sense of it, the Asian pangolins are critically endangered or endangered at this point in time, all of the 4 Asian species. So what's happened is that the trade has turned to Africa for harvesting and continued resource. So that's what's happened. And of course, that will move further south, you know, as that trade and the harvest of those animals depletes those resources. So the trade will move further south.
Yeah.
We are dealing with trade issues in South Africa at the moment, but they're all in live animals. So we're not dealing with scales in any quantity at this point in time. And, you know, the trade obviously differs in each place and has to be encountered in, you know, as an individual issue and tailor-made to encounter it in the right way in various different places, in each and every place. So we can't count them, but we know that they are in desperate trouble, and that within the next probably 10 years, we're going to be looking at extinction.
Oh, wow. That's around the corner.
You know, my feeling, Tosi, is that we will protect them in high protection zones, wildlife areas where they will be safe. Of course, then when you're looking at extinction of a species, you've got to make sure that the genetic variability in any, you know, pangolin, what's the word for it, within the pangolins in that area is diverse enough to ensure continuation of the species. So that's really the issue. That's what happens with extinction, that there's not enough diversified genetics any longer. So, but I do believe that we will create protected wildlife areas, and that these will grow, you know, as people become more and more aware and impassioned to protect nature. These will grow, and that there will be, you know, pools of these animals that will be safe. I really do believe that.
I'm with you there, Alexis. I mean, I'm also believing that, especially, let's say, Generation Z, for example. I mean, the young ones that are coming up now, as they get conscientized about the issues, I think really they will admire nature and actually believe that we are one, you know, and it's a symbiotic relationship that needs to be maintained for future generations. It's I guess it's this generation today that is, that needs more awareness and education about the impact that such are having on us. But yeah, that's thanks for those insights, Alexis. Much appreciated. Is there anything you'd like to add, maybe that we might have not covered?
I don't think so, Tosi. I think we've had a nice discussion that's touched on you know, select issues. It's a huge subject, obviously, and you know what we're dealing with is science and research and law enforcement, you know, confiscation from the trade, veterinary intervention, rehabilitation, release back into wildlife areas. It's the full gamut. You know, on any one given day. Obviously, sitting and giving evidence, expert evidence in aggravation of sentencing, and we've had incredible, you know, incredible sentences. I mean, we're right at the maximum, where we're having 10-year sentences being, you know, handed down.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And I think for us as an organization, if I can just mention my organization, which is the African Pangolin Working Group, I think for us as an organization, because we undertake all of the various different prongs on this approach to conservation, that it's been very successful. And the precedents are excellent. And all we can do is continue to push on all, you know, in all respects, these avenues, and know that there are so many other people out there who are also doing their best and having an effect and being successful. And who knows, when does the penny drop? When does the final piece of that Rubik's coin fall into place? Who knows? And for myself, I can't know what's going to happen in the future, but I do know for myself that it is my duty, my absolute duty, to fight this fight. And we're walking on the edge of extinction with an animal that is 85 million years on this planet. I mean, what to speak of a piece of antique furniture that's 100 years old? What is the value of an order that has been on this planet for 85 million years?
We'll definitely have to let that sink in. Alexis, thank you very much for your time. And it does seem as if there's a lot of work to be done in conscientizing and creating awareness. And once again, thank you for your time. It's much
It's a pleasure.
appreciated. And
Lovely to
again, it
meet
is
you and to chat.
awesome. Have a good
What a
one.
lovely, meaningful time. Thank you, Josie. Take
Thank you,
care.
Alexis.
Okay.
Bye.